Hello everyone. So from this lecture we will start our new subject, that is strength of material. Okay, so it is also termed as your SOM. Okay. Now this strength of material subject is also known by some other titles like mechanics of material, mechanics of materials, mechanics of solid. Also, it is also known by the name mechanics of structure, mechanics of structures, and by name of mechanics of deformable bodies. Deformable bodies. So these are the alternate names for your strength of materials. Okay, and there is one more, that is mechanics of elastic bodies. Mechanics of elastic bodies. Okay, so these are some of the other titles used for your subject strength of materials. Okay, so if I okay want to define strength of material, this subject, what is thus this subject signifies. So strength of material is a branch of applied mechanics that deals with the behavior of solid bodies subjected to various type of loading, various types of loading and its sorry it is study of behavior of applied mechanics that deals with the behavior of solid bodies subjected to various type of loading and internal forces developed due to these loadings. Okay, so this is our definition for your strength of material. What does we in strength of material we study, we deal with behavior of solid bodies subjected to various types of loading and internal forces developed due to these loadings. Okay, now if I would like to discuss here, if so here in the definition we use two terms, not in definition, in the title it is also known as mechanism of deformable bodies and elastic bodies. Okay, now if we talk about deformable bodies, let's talk about deformable bodies. Okay, but before that let's first talk about your rigid body. So in case of rigid bodies, there is no change in dimensions of body under external load. Okay, while we like apply the external load, won't be any change in body dimension. Okay, so there won't be any stress developed. Okay, so sorry, no, I mean stress may be developed, but they won't be any change in the dimension of the body. Okay, for rigid body. Now if we talk about deformable bodies, deformable bodies. So for deformable bodies, like there, if we apply under the load, under the application of load, application of load, system or we can say solid dimension changes, solids dimension changes. Okay, now like if we say that this change, now this change, this dimension change can be like elastic. If I like talk about deformation, then deformation may be our elastic deformation. Okay, let me write it here. So deformation might be elastic deformation, and next it may be your plastic deformation. Okay, okay, so like if we talk about elastic deformation, so elastic deformation is like when material regains its shape and dimension on load removal. Okay, and plastic deformation is when material doesn't regain its shape and dimension, shape and size, we can also say it, shape and size on load removal. Okay, now there is one more definition for your rigid body and deformable bodies. Like I've mentioned that no change in dimension, so it can be also like defined as if the in deformable bodies, relative position of particles changes, and in case of your rigid body, so relative position of particle does not changes. Relative position of particle doesn't changes. Okay, so I hope you understood this point. Okay, so now we will start our chapter 1, that is properties of materials. Okay, so in properties of material, first we will discuss our topic, normal stress. Normal stress. Okay. Now to understand our concept of normal stress, let's consider a bar. Let's consider this bar. So let's say that this bar has length L. Okay, length L, and now let's say that we have applied some load on this bar. Wait a minute. Now let's say that this bar is subjected under some loading condition. Let's say P load is applied at both ends. Okay, so this there will be a change in dimension for the length, since the body assumed to be a body we have assumed is our deformable bodies. Okay, so this change in length is our delta L. Okay, now let's consider section Mn here, and let's like imaginarily let's cut our like this bar at this section. Okay, so what we will get, we will get a bar. So let's say this is bar, and here it is load P as applied previously. Okay, now what happens here, that if we consider this bar, so if we like apply our force balance in this equation, so we can say that summation of force is equal to 0, because P on the right side and P on the left side, both forces will cancel each other and net force will be 0. Okay, now in this case, if we are like assume this section to be Mn, this section is our Mn. So in the case of this section, what happens, that there is a presence of force toward the rightward direction, but there is no force countering this force. Okay, so there should be presence of a force which should counter this force. Okay, so there should be like so and that force is our internal resistance. So the body will itself will offer some internal resistance toward this force, and this internal resistance will have the value equal to that of our applied load. Okay, so let's say that this value is our sigma, this quantity is sigma. Okay, and this sigma is our internal force, which is like distributed uniformly throughout the surface. Okay, and this sigma is also known as our stress. So we can define stress by definition. Stress is internal resistance, is internal resistance of material real offered against deformation, which is force per unit area. Okay, so our stress is a internal resistance of material offered against deformation, which is force per unit area. Okay, so stress is internal resistance. So this stress will be induced only when there will be internal resistance. I mean, only when there is presence of internal resistance. And when will be this internal resistance present? When the material offered against a deformation, material is undergoing a deformation. So if there is no deformation, there won't be any internal resistance. Okay, so stress will be 0. I hope you understood this point. Okay, and this deformation and this stress is also your force per unit area. So we can write this sigma is equal to P upon A, and it has the unit of Newton per mm square or Pascal. Okay, so like now this sigma may be our tensile or compressive. The stress may be tensile or compressive, and if the tensile, in case of tensile stress, so if like sigma, if it is tensile, then tensile stress is represented by positive sign, and compressive stress is denoted by negative sign. Okay, so this is sign convention. Okay, so I hope you know what is tensile stress and compressive stress. If you don't know, let me mention it here. So tensile stress is when, like, if a body undergoes deformation, then the distance between particle increases, then it is tensile. If the distance between particle decreases, then it is compressive stress. Okay. So the tensile stress is shown away from the surface. So if this is the cross section, so tensile strength will be shown away from the cross section. This is tensile. And if it is compression load, so compression is shown towards the our surface. Okay, so this is compression. Okay. Now if you see, and one more thing, I should let me mention it here. So stress will only be induced, let me tell it only. Okay, so stress will only be induced when there is a restriction in the motion. Okay, like here we have seen that that our this bar initially was restricted. Okay, so it means that this bar, there won't be like motion from left side or right side. Okay, so if we cut it from here, if I imagine the imaginary cross section. So if you see this part only, so there is a force P. So due to force P, this part should move to in forward direction, but this material should move in forward direction. But what happens, since this material is in stationary, so there must be some internal resistance or some internal force which is acting on this material to make it to keep it at rest. Okay, so this internal resistance is called our stress. Okay, that is normal stress. Okay. Now, pressure, if we talk about pressure, so let me mention a point here. The point is, pressure has same unit as stress, but is different physical quantity. And one more thing, if we define if we have defined stress as internal resistance, so this pressure is external normal force distributed over surface. So our stress is the internal resistance and pressure is the external normal force. So this is the difference between stress and pressure. Okay. Now previously I mentioned that in this body, since there is deformation, due to the presence of deformation in the body, the dimension of the body changes. Okay, so dimension changes, the area of cross section also change. Okay, so on the basis of area of cross section which is considered during calculation, we have defined your stress into two parts. Okay, so we have defined stress as in two parts. First one is our engineering stress. Second one is our true stress. Okay, now this engineering stress is also known as nominal stress, and this true stress is known as actual stress. Okay, now if I talk about the engineering stress, we can define sigma is equal to P upon A node. Okay, and this A node is original cross section area of specimen. A node is original cross section area of specimen. Okay, now at this true stress we can define by sigma is equal to load upon area, and this area will be actual area actual. Now this AA is our actual cross section area, actual cross section area of specimen at any point of time, okay. Next we will be moving to topic strain, okay. So if we look into your definition of strain, so it is elongation or shortening of member under axial load per unit length is known as strain, okay. So elongation or shortening of member under axial load per unit length is known as strain, okay. And strain is represented by epsilon, symbol epsilon, okay. So let me draw a diagram showing the strain here. So let's consider a bar attached to a rigid support. So let's say this is our bar attached to a rigid support, okay. And let's say that at this moment we have applied, or let me copy and then paste. And then what happens that under the some action of external force, let's say external force value is P. Under external force P, what happens, the member elongates, and the elongation amount is delta L, okay. And the original length of member was L, original length is L. So from here we can define our strength epsilon is defined as delta L, change in length, elongation or shortening, divided by original length, that is per unit length, that is L, original length, okay. So this is our strain, okay. Now this strain is our dimensionless quantity, because both numerator and denominator are in meters or in mm, okay. Dimensionless quantity, okay. Now similar to in that of case of your stress, if there is like there can be tensile strain and compressive strain, okay. And similarly the strain is also written in form of your engineering or nominal strain, okay. And next your actual or true or actual strain, true or actual strain, okay. Now if I write the formula for both cases, so similar to as I written in case of your for the stress, so here I can write engineering or nominal strain can be written as delta L upon L node, and here L node is original length, okay. If I talk about actual strain, so it is also written in form of like engineering stress is strain is EE, and true strain is this. And similarly true stress is like engineering stress is given in terms of sigma E, and true strain is sigma T, okay. It is the shown in this form, okay. This is our delta L upon LA, okay. Now this LA is our actual length of member. Now let's discuss about relationship between your engineering and actual stress. Relation between engineering and actual stress. Actual stress. So we can write our actual stress or true stress is equal to engineering stress or nominal stress times of 1 plus minus engineering strain. Okay, now this we use plus in case of your tensile load and negative in case of your compression. Okay, similarly we can also like define our strain. True strain can be written in terms of your engineering strain by ln 1 plus epsilon, or in terms of like length, and we can also write it in terms of length and area. We will see that this explanation in your theory of plasticity when we will study your production. Okay, so here let's like stay with this. Okay, so after this we have discussed our stress and strain in your material properties of material. Now we will see what how the different materials will behave under your tension test and compression test. Okay, but before discussing that, let's first discuss what are different type of materials, or let me write it directly as homogeneous and isotropic materials. Homogeneous and isotropic materials. Okay, so if we want to discuss our homogeneous and isotropic material, so wait a minute. So if I talk about homogeneous and isotropic material, so first we let me mention what is a homogeneous material. So homogeneous materials exhibits same elastic properties at any point in a given direction. Okay, now if we talk about isotropic, so isotropic materials exhibit same property same elastic property or properties in any given direction any direction, like it was at any point in a given direction. Here it is any direction at a given point, at a given point. Let me show it you in a schematic way. So let's say there are three types of material. Okay, so let's say this is our material A, this is our material B, and this is our material C. Okay, so there are three type of material. So let's say in one material, if I say, let's say at this point in this direction it is Ex, let's say this is point A, so Ea in x direction is equal to E. Okay, now similarly if we talk about point B, then EB in x direction is equal to E. Okay, similarly if I talk about, let's say, B C point, so EC in x direction is equal to E. Okay, now let's say in another material, if I say let's at a point A in any direction, in this direction, this direction, this direction, or some any direction at let's say at angle theta, so all the properties are E, Ea, Ea, Ea and Ea. Similarly at point B it can be given as EB, EB, EB. Okay, at a point in all direction this is our same. Okay, so this type of material in which a direction, there is a directional, if we say that in a particular direction at any point we have same type of like same value of your elastic properties, so this type of property material is called homogeneous. Okay, and this is called as isotropic. Isotropic means, so let me mention something here. So your homogeneous is any point in a given direction, at given point in any direction, Okay, now there might be a similar a third case where, like, whether it is point A or point B, your E remains same throughout any direction. Okay, E, similarly E. Okay, so such materials in which like property remains same throughout your system is called homogeneous and isotropic. Homogeneous and isotropic. Okay, homogeneous and isotropic. Now we will see the strain diagram for mild steel under tension. Okay, so let me put on the heading here: tensile stress strain diagram for mild steel. Okay, in case of mild steel under the tension, what will the behavior of material, we will see it here. Okay, so let me plot it here. So let's say this is our stress curve and stress is our engineering stress. Okay, sorry. Okay, and similarly this is our strain axis. Okay, and the strain is also our engineering strain. Okay, or let's write it epsilon E. Okay, stress and strain. Okay, so if we draw it for mild steel, so mild steel is our ductile material. Okay, so generally for all the ductile materials it follows like in the similar way. Okay, so if I want to draw it, so let me draw it here. So some part, a small part, that is a straight line. For a small part it is a straight line. Okay, and after this point, uh, now after that there is a non-linear region, and so it's something like this. Let me draw it. And after this point there is the dip in the curve. So there is a dip in the curve. Okay, and after this dip there is a like a constant at the same stress, the our specimen will elongate. Okay, and after this elongation, or let's make it a small portion only. So this happens for a small portion only, up to a small length only. Okay, now after this there will be a curve. So this is our curve. Okay, now let's name the following like this diagram. So what are the following points, what does following point represent here? Okay, so let's say that this is our point O. Okay, now there is point A, then there is a point B, and after B this will be our point C, and this is point D, this is here is E, and it's F, the maximum point, and this point is G. Okay, now each point here represents some value. Okay, and what does it represent, I will show it you in this. Okay, now in this stress strain curve, if I want to name the points, so the point A correspond to our proportional limit. Okay, so this proportional limit up to this point, it follows our stress is proportional to strain. It follows up to this proportional point limit. Okay, at point B, like curve AV is our non-linear. Okay, only point O, line A, point O to A is our linear, point B, A to B is non-linear. Okay, so point B represent elastic limit. Elastic limit up to this limit, elastic limit, it will regain, our material will regain its original shape and size. Okay, if I talk about point C, this point C is upper yield limit. So after upper yield, the point D will represent our lower yield limit. Lower yield point or yield limit. Okay, now this let's call it point elastic point, proportional point, or we can call it elastic limit, but let's call it upper yield point and lower yield point. So if we talk about like in terms of your significance, so upper yield point doesn't have too much of significance in our studies, in our further studies. Okay, in all the future studies we correspond to our lower yield point, and this lower yield point is also our actual yield point. Okay, this is also our actual yield point. Okay, and this yield point is also called our yield stress. At this point the stress value is called yield stress. Okay, so SYT. Okay, and this SYT value is equal to 250 for mild steel. Okay, I hope you understood this. Okay, so our material yielding of material, I mean the plastic elongation in the material will begin from this this point D. Okay, The region DE indicates our yielding region. Yielding region. This yielding region is also called perfect plastic region. Perfect plastic region. Okay. Now if I talk about region EF, so this is point F, our peak point here. Okay. So if we talk about region EF, so region EF indicates our strain hardening region. Strain hardening region. Okay. This point F is known as our ultimate point. Okay. And the stress corresponding to this point is known as our like here I have yield tensile stress. Okay. And it is called it ultimate stress, S UT, also mentioned in like sigma UT. Okay. Ultimate. Now if I talk about next region, that is our F to G. So region F to G is known as necking region. Necking region, or also called strain softening region. Strain softening region. Okay. And this finally point G is called our breaking point or fracture point. Breaking or fracture point. Okay. So this is our stress strain diagram for mild steel under tensile stress strength. Okay. Now if we talk about certain regions, so let me draw some lines here. So one region is this OA, and this next is this area. The next region is this. Okay. And after that this complete region is. Okay. Now if I talk about, let's say in region OA, and let's say this is our so this region is our proportional region, or if we don't take this only, so this region indicates our, okay, sorry about that, this region is our elastic region. Okay. And this region is here elastic plastic region. Elastic plastic region. Okay. And here this will be this region is our plastic region. Okay. Okay. So the strain corresponding to this point is called our breaking strain. Okay. And this is our S sigma. Let me show these points also. So this is our proportional limit, elastic limit, lower yield point, or our SYT. Okay. This is our ultimate point, or SUT. Okay. So these are our main points for regarding our tensile stress of tensile stress strain diagram for mild steel. Okay. Now there is one more thing, like if we consider, let's say this is for our engineering stress and strain. Now if it was our true stress and strain, so true stress and strain curve should have been gone like this. So let me draw it with some another color. So this should be our like it follow O, A, B, C, and after C it will move something like this. Okay, now this graph here will be known as our epsilon t and sigma t curve. Okay, I hope you understand it till here. Okay, now we will moving to next part, that is our compression curve. Okay, if we look into compression curve for the mild steel only, so let's go for compression curve for mild steel. So if we talk about compression curve, so let me draw stress strain axis. So this is sigma, of course engineering if we talk about, and here it is strain, that is epsilon. Let's write sigma and E only. Okay, so if I talk about your engineering stress strain, so this should be like this. So they at some yield point it will remain constant sigma y. Okay, now at this point it will like the stress is increasing. Okay, something like this. But in case of your but in case of your actual curve, so actual curve should follow something like this. So this is our actual curve and this is our engineering curve. Engineering curve. Okay, so this is for our compression curve for mild steel MS. Now if I talk about tension curve for cast iron or let's say brittle. So tension test for brittle material generally follows this trend. So if we like draw stress and strain axis, so strain axis, so our curves look something like this. So it will follow our proportional limit. Okay, up to certain point it will also follow our elastic limit, but after that, like let me draw it. It's like this. Okay, so up to this point it followed proportional limit. So this is our point A. Up to this point it follows our elastic limit. Okay, now this is our fracture or breaking point. Breaking or fracture, there is no yielding in our brittle materials. Okay, so this will correspond to our SUT, ultimate tensile strength of our cast iron. This is our, of course, as I mentioned, elastic limit. This is our plastic limit or proportional limit. Okay, now we will move to properties of metals. Properties of metals. Okay, so the first property we are talking about is ductility. So what does ductility defines? Ductility is the property by which material can be stretched. Material can be stretched. Okay, so larger the deformation, the larger the value of ductility. Okay, so it is also like termed as your ability of the material to be drawn into wire. Okay, so this is ability of material to be drawn into a wire, okay. So longer the wire that can be stretched for the given material, the more the higher the ductility of the that material, okay. And the ductile material have the example of, let's say examples are our mild steel, aluminum, our copper, okay. And we can also like brass and bronze. We can talk about nickel in this, okay. So these are all the examples of our ductile materials. The second property, if we talk about, second property is brittleness. Brittleness is the lack of ductility. It is lack of ductility, that is material cannot be stretched. Okay. So the examples are our cast iron and, let's say, concrete and glass, etc. Okay. Now third, if I talk about property, third property is malleability. Okay. So what is malleability? Malleability is the property of metal due to which metal can be converted into thin sheets by pressing it. Okay. So the malleable material possesses a high degree of plasticity, okay. So malleability means high degree of plasticity, okay. So this property of malleability is used in case of our forging and hot rolling, okay, stamping processes. So these processes consider our malleability of the material, okay. The fourth property we talk about is our hardness, okay. So hardness is defined by, so hardness is basically resistance to scratch or abrasion or single S abrasion, okay. Now of course there are some methods of measuring hardness. We will study it in your material science subject, okay. Now next property is creep. So this creep is the permanent deformation of material or metal with passage of time at a constant loading. Okay, so let's say that something is hanging from the wall. You have your fan. So your above your fan there is a metal hook, okay. On that metal hook the fan is loaded all the times, okay. So it isn't possible that the hook will properties of hook will remain same throughout the years, okay. With time, what happens due to the constant loading? What happens that the property of your hook will change, material will change. Okay, and this change will be like affected by your magnitude of load, what is the weight of your fan, what is type of loading. Okay, like how much the loading may be static or dynamic. Static loading is when the constant load is applied. Dynamic load is when load is varying constantly. Okay, time, how much time the load is applied for. Okay, and temperature, at what temperature our surrounding is present. Okay, at higher temperature, like at if we talk about higher temperature, so what happens at higher temperature, that like atoms are having greater mobility. Okay, so due to that, at higher temperature, creeps are so let me mention it. Creeps are pronounced at higher temperature. Higher temperatures. Okay, next if we talk about point 7, so it is stress relaxation. Stress relaxation. So if we talk about stress relaxation, so what happens that in case of, like, let's say your wires, so after a constant loading, wire, uh, let's say wire is stretched, wire stretched between two immovable supports. So the wire is stretched between two immovable support. So initial tension, so what happens that the stress is gradually decrease. Stress gradually diminishes eventually reaching a diminishes to a constant value. Okay, and at that constant value, our that is our stress value, final stress value. Okay, so this stress relaxation is also called our manifestation of creep. Okay, and like it is a reason why electric wires sag after long time. Sag after a long time. Okay, I hope you understood till here. Now we will moving to our next topic. Next, let's talk about 8, that is resilience. So if we talk about resilience, so it is the total strain energy which can be stored which can be stored in a given volume of metal and can be released after unloading. Is called resilience. Okay, so this is equal to like area. So this resilience This resilience is equal to area under load deflection curve, under load deflection curve, under load deflection curve up to within the elastic limit. Okay, within the elastic limit. Okay, now similar to resilience, we have a term modulus of resilience. So if we talk about modulus of resilience, modulus of resilience. Okay, so when we have it like talked about your resilience, so we have to like talk the area under P delta curve, area under P delta curve within the elastic limit. Okay, now if I let's talk about your modulus of resilience. So in case of modulus of resilience, I say that it is our area under P delta curve up to elastic limit. Okay, per unit up to elastic limit. Okay, and this is also like it can be also defined as, it is also defined as maximum elastic energy, maximum elastic energy per unit volume, unit. Okay, so this is called our modulus of resilience. Okay, now this modulus of resilience is denoted by your UR, and UR can be written as half times of sigma y, sigma yield strength into strain up to yield point. Okay, and can be also written as half into sigma y into now this strain is can be written as stress upon Young modulus. Okay, I will like we'll see like this formula. Our epsilon y is given by sigma y by, so, or we can write epsilon is equal to sigma by epsilon, sigma by Young modulus. We will see this formula in our Hooke's law. Okay, when we will study our Hooke's law. Okay, so from here we can say that modulus of resilience UR can be written as sigma y square by 2e. Okay, so this UR is modulus of resilience is maximum elastic limit. Okay, sorry, the maximum elastic energy. Okay, so now so since here we have said that maximum elastic energy per unit volume is the modulus of resilience, so from this we can add a point that is higher resilience is desirable in suspension, springs, etc. Okay, so wherever our like shock absorption or load absorption is required, so at that point we require higher resilience. Okay, because why? Because maximum energy per unit volume, so how much energy the material can absorb. Okay, so in that cases we require the maximum amount of energy that the material can remove to process. Okay, now there is one more term that is our proof stress. So if I would like to I have defined modulus of resilience here. Okay, now if I would like to, let's say, define your or I can write use some other color. Okay, so let's use define proof stress. Proof stress. If I talk about proof stress, so like in ductile metals or some ductile metal, like your aluminum, copper, and let's say silver, these material don't show clear yield points. Do not show clear yield points. So in such metals, of course in tension test we are talking about, in tension test. Okay, so we cannot determine the value of your yield strength. Okay, so in such cases what we do, we draw a offset line with the 0.2% offset. So let me draw a stress strain curve here. So this is our stress curve, this is our strain. Okay, now generally we get, like for ductile materials we get it like this. So this is okay, so the curve is looks somewhat like this. Okay, now what happens here, that okay, sorry about that. So in this, like what we do, we like draw a 2% 0.2% offset line. Okay, so this line we have drawn, that is our 0.2% offset. Okay, so strain here is 0.2%. Okay, so this point will intersect somewhere here. So this will be our elastic. We will treat it as like the stress here is yield strength. Okay, so this stress, corresponding stress, so sigma y, let's call it sigma y. This sigma y is called our proof stress. Okay, so moving to the next topic, that is our elastic and plastic behavior of metals, or elastoplastic behaviors of metals. That is elastoplastic behavior of metals. Okay, so let's consider a strain diagram here. So let's say that this is the stress sigma, and here it is our strain epsilon. Okay, so we have drawn this curve. Let's say this curve represent our loading. So this is our loading. Okay, so this was our point O. Here we reached our point B, that is our elastic limit, or let's say that this is our point B, that is our elastic limit. Okay, and after point B, at some point, let's say P, we reach the point P, and we have we trying to unload the okay, so this will represent our unloading. Okay, so this is our unloading. Okay, so like at point P, our strain is this point, like OD is our strain, but in actuality it is like only reduced to point OC. So this term here, this strain is called our residual strain, and this is called our elastic recovery. Okay, now let's say that at this point we have again started to load this material. So like from C to P we will move to loading. Okay, So this will again move like this, okay, something like this, okay. So this will be our point B, elastic region up to point B now, okay. So from here we can say that reloading of material uh, raises its yield stress, okay. So if we reload the material, then the yield stress of material will increase, okay. So like say if we like go again and again, go beyond the elastic limit, and material will undergo our continuous cycles, okay, a cycle of loading and unloading, then the yield strength of or yield limit of material will keep on like continuously increasing, okay. So this concept is used in our case of our uh, cold working, and we will study this in production, okay. Now there are different types of your metal behaviors. This here indicates our linear elastic curve, okay. So the curve is linear, then non-linear elastic, then our elastoplastic or viscoplastic, this is also called, that is first your like stress directly proportional strain, and after that stress remain constant, okay. Now there is a perfectly plastic. After a constant amount of stress, your strain will be continuous. Then your elastoplastic with strain hardening. Strain hardening is when like increase in stress is like is more than that of increase in your or strain, okay. It is not linear, it is like in some exponential function, okay. Now the ideal rigid means no matter how much stress you apply, our strain value will always be 0. Then ideal fluid, independent of shear stress, there will be available of shear strain, okay. Even if there is the smallest amount of stress, at that stress only, like it will be totally like it will continue its strain, okay. So with this we have completed our this topic, elastoplastic behavior of metals. Next move to next topic, that is our toughness, okay. So what does toughness represent? So toughness is a property which enables material to it enables material to absorb energy without fracture, okay. So like a material absorbs energy, but it does not fracture after absorbing that amount of energy, okay. So this property is like is desirable in conditions of your cyclic loading or shock loading, okay. So if a material can absorb absorb large amount of strain energy before fracture, so the material will have more toughness, okay. So similar to toughness, so it is our area, similar to resilience, it is area under P delta curve within plastic limit, okay. Now there is a term called modulus of toughness. Modulus of toughness, okay. So modulus of toughness is defined as total strain energy per unit volume up to fracture stage, okay. So this is our basically total area of total area under stress and strain curve. Okay, so modulus of toughness MT is given as sigma y plus sigma u by 2. This is our mean stress or average stress into like strain at fracture limit. Okay, strain at fracture. Okay, so this is our formula for modulus of toughness. Okay, now this is sigma it is sigma yt and sigma ut. Okay, yield tensile strength and ultimate tensile strength. Okay, if we talk about compressive, then it will be in terms of C. Okay, so that's why I written previously yt and u, sigma y and sigma u. Okay, so like from here we can, from our above study, we can mention a point, and let's write it as note. So this note mention that ductile materials are tough. They can absorb more energy up to your fracture limit. Okay, and brittle materials are hard. Okay, they are more they have more resistance to your crack on the surface. Okay, and scratches. Okay, so now we will move to our last topic for this lecture, that is failure of materials. Failure of materials. So we will talk about, first let's talk about ductile material, and second we will talk about brittle. Okay, so ductile materials are weak in shear and brittle materials are weak in your tension. Okay, so like if we see the failure of material, so in case of tension, for ductile material, in tension loading, your failure will be cup and cone fracture. Okay, if if there is a presence of your, it fails under torsion. Okay, so let me write it, tension, and this is torsion. If we torque applied, then it would be plane transverse fracture, and the surface will be smooth. Okay, now in case of brittle, if it is under tensile load, so in tensile load this will be granular transverse fracture, granular transverse fracture, okay. Now in case of torsion, it will be granular helicoid fracture, fracture. Okay, so this will be our rough, this will be smooth. Okay, now if I let me draw some diagrams. So if I talk about in case of tension, in case of tension, it forms something like this. Okay, this So if they like there is a P load here and P load here, so this is cup and cone. This happens at 45 degrees. Okay, this is 45 degrees. Okay, now this is our cup and cone. Now if we let's talk in case of your brittle materials. Let's say that this was your initial, okay, let's say this was your specimen, and his specimen was brittle, so the failure will occur like this. Okay, so this is our load P was acting. Okay, brittle material is fractured 90 degree. Okay, now if we like see the case of tension in case of your like this is a bar. So in case of bar, if let's say this is applied under the compressive load P and it is Ci, so it will break from here. Okay, so this is at 45 degrees Celsius, it will have failure. Okay, now if the same cast iron bar is subjected under the torsion T, so your like break, like from 45 degrees Celsius it will fracture, but the surface will be smooth. Okay, so with this we will be done with our first chapter, that is properties of material. So in meet you in the next lecture.